Welcome to the Open Channel podcast, where we invite conscious conversation into the embodiment of unity and higher states of conscious awareness. I'm Shaunna Green.
And I'm Avalina, Maline. Welcome to this co-created space for people who want to connect and remember their core essence. We are so grateful to have you with us.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, Avalina, you're talking about this meme that you noticed.
yeah.
Oh, yes. So there was this, it was a meme, and it was an image of it was like a statue of a big shark, really, really huge. And the head of it was going into the roof of a house. So the shark was like sticking out of the house. And the quote was, normally this would be alarming to me, or I would take notice of this, but it's 2022. So I just keep walking. Which, like we were saying, pretty much sums up what's occurring right now, and what's not occurring. And, it was pretty funny.
And how we're existing,
Yeah.
through it all.
Right.
It's so perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it's about stepping outside the box.
Yeah.
The box of complacency, the box of feeling like I can plan my life, or I can plan the world to be the way it is. So COVID came along, and the different wars come along, and there's some things that are the same, but then some things that are very different from what anyone is expected.
Yeah.
And underneath that, I think, is the fact that it's not just haphazard events, but there's a plan. There's a plan on both sides, if you can talk about sides. There's the Kabul has its own plan, the deep state, and then the Light Alliance and the evolutionary spirit has a plan, and we are in between. So it's like sometimes we're noticing this side of it, sometimes we're noticing the other side of it. We're caught in between. We're facing our own insecurities, our own ways that we tend to hold on or get fixated to certain ideas of how it should be. So it's a big inner process.
Yes. Yeah. This week too, in particular, I've noticed is very, very intense. I mean, so much, just like we were saying before, so much, we had the Neptune, Jupiter convergence. And then yesterday was like a 4-4-4 portal, because it was 4-13, which is 4, and then 22, which is 4, all these things happening all at the same time. And wow, it's intense. I've been, a lot of deep stuff, cellular stuff, ancestral stuff, really like everything's being uncovered. The dream state, like incredible. It's like, wow.
Well, say more about this portal, this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction.
Yeah.
What's it mean?
Yeah, I'm not that tuned into astrology, but I do read several things. But my gist of it is, basically it's like more of an intense spiritual boost. And a lot of it, what I understand, has to do with water, which is interesting because we're having all this flooding, I've noticed, in different parts of the world.
Raining here.
Yeah. And I've been seeing footage of bad flooding in some countries. And then I think when it happened, I think the last time it happened was like 160 something years ago.
166.
There was flooding then too. But it's a good thing what's happening. And you may be feeling like bliss, but it's like a boost in helping your spirituality, helping your dreams, helping you just manifest what it is you want to create.
And where? Jupiter, Neptune conjuncting in which house? Which sign?
Pisces.
Ah, okay.
So they're both like, exalted, and it's like,
right. Yeah. So it's like really going deeply into the unconscious.
Yeah.
So there's both sides of it. There's a clearing process, and there's also an incarnational process.
Yeah. In theory, the planets those two planets get close every 12 years, but they only completely align every 166.
Yeah, in Pisces, in that particular
Pisces,
sign.
Right. And Pisces is, as we are exiting from the age of Pisces, these two planets are like opening the door into the age of Aquarius now.
Yeah.
and what
Yeah, I
an
happen to have my
intense.
sun in Pisces and my moon in Aquarius. So it's like, yeah, I can see how,
Yeah.
we're being pulled in both directions.
So appropriate
Mm.
for
Yeah.
these times.
Yeah. And Pisces is a very intuitive sign. So I feel like there's a little bit of boost in that. I don't know if you guys have been noticing that
Yeah,
the
definitely.
sensitivity
Yeah.
increasing.
Yeah, absolutely. And also more I think cellular activations of dormant um abilities, and just I think a lot is happening within the physical form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of um activations of gifts that star seeds had known was there, but we're actually getting to feel them now in more visceral ways, more like the body is sensing it and feeling
Hmm.
more like telepathy, I think, is coming online for a lot of people right now in
Mhm.
a more concrete way. There's
Right.
more like apparently the telepathy center in the brain is coming online. Like even though we've sensed that we're saying the same things as other people, now there's the possibility for connecting with off-planet um, light family in more telepathic ways.
Mm. And extra dimensional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So aspects of ourself that have been disconnected and fragmented. So
exactly.
yeah, it's all good. And it's a split. So, those who are ready for it and surrender are moving in that one, moving in a unified direction. And those who are resisting and in fear are moving in the opposite direction. It's like things are just, the physical body is being challenged and the emotional body is being broken up. And, you know, so
Mhm.
it's not easy for any of us really,
Yeah.
and because we carry both sides, we carry the light and the dark, and it's up to us now to unify them, bring them together so that we can hold space for the collective.
Yeah. And just allow the big energies to have a direct path to
Mm.
help nourish whatever forms needed. So whether it's to other sentient beings that happen to surround us, or to our fellow star seeds or our fellow um, community members, we just are there to help redirect that light where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a question for you too. um, so lately there's been all this, you know talk flooding the internet about the so-called guardians of the looking glass.
Yeah. And
And so the just for the people listening, I'll just say briefly, the idea is that there's different timelines, and that using certain technologies, you can actually not just see into the future, but change the future by changing the past and creating different pathways. And apparently the the dark side has been using these technologies to create a momentum towards their new world order and agenda 2030. And so because apparently 2030 there's going to be this huge event, a cosmic event as it's called, which would be like either a galactic superwave or some kind of supramental force entering. Peter Donov talks about this cosmic electricity. But this intensity of light will be such that, if you're riding the wave and are able to catch the momentum of this force, we can actually ascend into something never before seen. And that's the evolutionary plan. If not, then you'd be just, broken and inundated by this wave. And that could be hugely devastating on a physical level, or it could give the deep state their new world order because people are in so much fear and disharmony and despair. So the idea is that this timeline is set, and these guardians um, of the looking glass supposedly have come up with a strategy to change the negative timeline and move it in a positive direction. by focusing on certain inevitabilities. So April 18th, for instance, is the first um, moment of choice where there's supposed to be some kind of a false flag happening in New York. If it takes place, then the timeline is set. Nothing can change it. And we're heading towards this breakdown. If we can manage to change it, there's still 70 events ahead. And then we have to go and change each one of those by bringing consciousness into it. So, it sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of awareness that's needed. And I'm curious about how you see that, the pros and the cons, both sides of the issue, if it's real, what it means. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I've actually heard I've heard about the looking glass before many years ago when I first woke up. I think, it was probably at least 10 years ago. Coming across information about the looking glass and people using that, and a lot of the times, every time I would look at it, because they're showing you the negative side, and it like that puts the fear in you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the positive side. So eventually I just stopped looking at it because I felt like it wasn't necessarily beneficial for me, because it's more of on the collective, like that's a collective possible outcome. So all I can do is my part either way, regardless of which outcome it is. So as long as I focus on me, that's my contribution, so to speak. But as far as like the 18th, I feel like we've already, like, that's all, like, I don't feel like that is going to happen. I feel like we've already transmuted that.
Yeah.
And that it's, when I read that, it was, the first thing was like, it didn't resonate that the 18th was going to happen. So I feel pretty, relaxed about that, yeah. So, but I do agree, like the way that's coming, I mean, it's going to cause, if you're there and you're heading in the right direction and you're using your intention to, embody and to work through your shadow, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're not, then you're going to short circuit. Basically, it's, and you'll spin out, and the drama will happen. So the chaos, I think, is going to be very individual. Like the chaotic part of it is going to be individual. I mean, we'll see things happening, like the example, like the flooding we were talking about, like things like that. But I don't think there'll be one big, massive, chaotic thing. Like on the negative spin side, it's going to be very, it's just going to flow individually, almost, in a way, because everyone's sort of creating their own reality. So it's like, it's all going to be simultaneously happening, which is going to be very interesting in how you want to perceive it.
Yes.
I think is going to be a big aspect of that. What lens you're looking through to perceive what's happening.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Every word. Yep. I think it's very individual. I do agree that we each are contributing our own energetic light, and that whatever is moving into your field is there to be met through your individual lens. And so for each of us, it's going to look different, and the way we perceive whatever's coming up in the collective is affecting what our state of being is. And so I just don't watch the news anymore, because it's just, I know that whatever comes into my immediate field is there for a reason. And perhaps that's what's happening with the way you receive this story, Kiara, that it's coming into your field for a particular way, maybe for us to talk about this individual way of meeting the energies of that here. But I just perceive it as a very individual way of meeting whatever energy comes up, just like it did with COVID and all these other things that have come up. It's up to our individual lens to discern what about that needs to be met in our field. And so energetically, it's all about meeting that immediacy in the moment, and then continuing on to the next thing, because that's how we hold our light.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
also bringing in joy to that. It can be during these times uh, of where people are suffering and there's chaos, you know, there may be confusion about, well, or about feeling joy for yourself, but really you're bringing in that frequency into the field, because we all feel, everything that someone is going through, we all feel it in some way, shape, or form, because essentially we're all one.
Right.
So if you're bringing in joy to whatever you're experiencing, and using that lens, you're just adding that into the field, and it's the same field that we all draw from. So
Exactly.
it's huge in how, to allow yourself to, be in joy when people around you may be suffering or being worried, or, whether you're involved directly or indirectly, to allow that frequency to come in, because that's how we're going to create it.
Well, and
Yeah.
as we continue to set intentions for whatever comes into the field, we can either meet whatever's coming up, whether it's a story about things that seem of polarity or not. Whatever comes into that, can we hold it with love and compassion and go, well, okay, that's what's coming up in the field, and how am I going to be affected by that? It's sort of a barometer for our own energetic holding too. Are we can sort of sense into, does anything trigger any fear in us? And it's a way to check that, just to be aware of what's moving, what's affecting my field. And can we receive it with open arms and say, oh, okay, this is in the field, and just like everything else, can we be with it? Can we be with that and not have any displacement of our alignment?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, well, it's interesting to interact with this information, because it's not just information. It's what's allowing and maybe forcing each one of us to respond to this field in the way that either empowers us or not. And what comes up for me is that our perception of time has become very limited. We think in terms of linear time. And that's why when someone talks about timelines and changing the future, changing the past, it sounds so novel.
Yeah.
And it really isn't. We're doing this all the time,
Yeah.
just with our intentions, with our collective thoughts, with our way of being, with our choices. This particular artifact, the looking glass, has been around for some time, at least since the 50s, from what I understand. And it's actually a Sumerian technology. So it was brought by the Anunnaki as part of their genetic experimentation on humans. The thing about this for me is that it's a very third dimensional, or it's not third dimensional, but it's a maybe lower astral technology.
Yeah.
So it's about controlling an outcome based on an elite deciding rather than a co-creating. And what I'm realizing is that there's other technologies, like the Pleiadian technologies associated with Uluru, the magic box, which are about opening up doorways between dimensions. And that has been also activated since December 2021. And what that means now is that nothing can stop this evolution, nothing can stop the ascension. And the idea that something can stop it, or the idea that we're not already, in this positive timeline, is what keeps us trapped through fear into the possibility of failure. So it's very multifaceted.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more than just listening to information out there and doing what's needed as the guardians think it should be.
Yeah.
It's more like we are engaging with the whole idea of time, with the whole idea of choice, with the whole perception of human evolution, and our relationship with the divine as divine. And that creative force is now moving through us more and more rapidly every day. And then this cosmic event they talk about, and I think this is real. If nothing else has much credence for me, this event, whether it's going to be 2030 or 2028 or 2033 or what, that isn't set for me. But the idea that there's this cosmic event happening, even today, there's a major solar flare, and that's affecting consciousness in a certain way. Every month, there's lunar events that affect consciousness in a certain way. Here now, we're talking about a galactic wave connected with a solar event that affects consciousness in a certain way. These are cycles.
Mm-hmm.
But how it affects consciousness, the last time this happened was a failure, or at least, that was our entry into third dimensional reality. And that's when Atlantis sank, when other things happened, and we basically fell into a state of duality. Now we have the potential, the same wave is coming in. What the deep state wants to do is to continue that spiral downwards, to create more chaos, to create more control, so the elite can basically rule the world. That's not our collective choice.
Yeah.
And now it's time to honor that collective choice, which has already created a positive ascension future, a positive ascension timeline. So I don't see that we'd actually need to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
It's more like we just need to prepare our bodies to catch this wave, to set our intention, our dreams, our vision, our focus into what it is that we wish to create for this next evolution for Gaia. We are co-creators with her.
Mm-hmm.
Gone is the time that we are victims, that someone else, like the deep state, is trying to, or has the power to control us. We are beyond that now. And the sooner we wake up to that, the easier it will become. The more choices we have, the more we can support the collective, and the more we can be part of Gaia's awakening. So this has all been part of my, my own engagement with this story.
Yeah. Well, and can we embrace the empowerment that we hold already in what we allow into our field and into our thoughts and into our energy? I mean, we start with that, and that will allow us to lean into the timelines that we intend as a collective, and begin to utilize our creator functions, because we're starting to lean into those days. And the more we can continue patterns of intention for what collectively we want to have in our future, perhaps we can shift whatever the timelines are in ways beyond what may be in that story or something else. It's maybe we're co-creating a new reality beyond whatever people say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, that would be the next question. Like, what's your vision for the future? What do you want to create?
Yeah, it's limitless, right? Absolutely limitless. I feel like we've dropped the blueprint of our lifetimes, like the limits that we put in on ourselves when we came into this particular incarnation. Like that blueprint is no longer there. Like we can drop all that story of everything over this lifetime, and it's done, right? Like it's already there. Like, so to me, I feel like incredible limitless, like all the way. Like this is, there's no messing around this time. Like I'm in all the way, I mean, I see, living very long periods of time for myself. I sense no aging, all sorts of things. And I've been guided recently, particularly in the past few months, of like you were saying, Kiara, focusing, on the body, allowing the body to be that clear vessel so you can catch that wave, and catch everything that's coming in and really just flow more with grace and ease, the clearer your vessel is. So I've been, detoxing, all kinds of things, limiting food intake, and really allowing for more energy to flow through the body than inducing all these other, ingesting all these other consciousnesses, to allow for that ride to happen, that magic carpet ride, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm thrilled. I couldn't be more in awe of this journey right now.
Well, and I think
True.
we're having the ability to realize the broadening of what we thought was possible. And so in leaning into the world we want, the world we're intending, I think sometimes we start dreaming into what's possible and then realize partway into that, maybe more is possible than I thought. Maybe the dream I started to have isn't broad enough, isn't big enough. Exactly. And so can we continue to allow our evolving vision of what we want the world to be, to grow as we do?
Yeah.
And
So
it's a spontaneous, organic expression. It's like a couple of years ago, I realized, and it wasn't like this was my intention as a personal self. I just realized that this body is here to live on this planet at this time in this incarnation for at least 120 years. And a few days ago, I realized, no, that's not true. Why limit it? It's not me planning to, but there's a realization from the cells that this is just the beginning.
Exactly.
2, 3, 4, 500 years. This is the genetic capacity, the capability, the potential that we've had, which has been veiled by all the density of our thought forms and the world around us. And when this cosmic event takes place, it'll just burn out that droll or that dross. And then it's like whatever is potential can be expressed. And there's a wisdom in the cells, there's a divine potential that we're just beginning to understand, and that's going to be opened up. So, why stop at that? If time isn't linear, then what's to stop us from physically moving around in space and time in a moment, instantaneously, just like our thoughts can travel instantaneously, our consciousness can travel instantaneously. So our bodies too follow that, because there's an alignment between the bodies, between physical, etheric, mental, emotional, and soul bodies. And when that alignment is strong, all the limits that we have projected onto ourselves as the Newtonian worldview vanish. We are in quantum reality, which basically is not just a subatomic reality, but it's a macrocosmic reality as well. And we actually begin to understand that and direct that.
And experience it in lucid dreams. I mean, all these things that we're talking about, when you're in lucid dreaming, you actually get to experience the teleportation, first, one of the first stages in lucid dreaming is you fly, right? And you're flying around and then once you get bored of that, you realize, why am I trying to fly? Why am I trying to thrust a physical body through time and space? What a waste of energy, when I can just snap my fingers and be there. And then you stop flying, right? It's like, then you start, erasing your own limitations. And that's exactly what we're doing here.
Right. Flying still implies getting somewhere.
Exactly.
It still implies time. And now we're going beyond time, beyond
Yeah.
space. I mean, it's not going beyond time and space. We are beyond time and space. We're just recognizing it and
Yeah.
anchoring it.
Yeah. And there's stages to it, you know, because when went for years and years, I would fly in lucid dreams. And then I met these other humans who were traveling as light. And it was, you know, two people I didn't know. And I thought, I saw them travel. I was like, wow, I got to learn how to do that. Like, that is awesome. And I tried to catch up with them, but they were gone. And this was a completely conscious lucid dream. And then quickly, once I started to do that, I was like, okay, done. And it was like, boom, boom. Now I don't even have to do that. So I think it's going to happen super fast. I mean, so fast. It's just going to tumble like a snowball when we start, you know, really letting go. Like you said, am I going to live 120 years? Absolutely. You know, why stop there? Right. So yeah, completely limitless.
Right, right.
And can we trust the body, the physical form, to be able to do what it needs to do in its brilliance, in its infinite design? To, you know, we keep sometimes feeling a nudge to try, you know, to do certain things to make the body, you know, a certain way so it can evolve in a certain way. And I think that's a place of inquiry for all of us. You know, is there an element of trying in there that we're feeling a pressure to do for some end, or is there just an allowing, a grace, a
Big difference.
release into allowing the system to tell us what it needs, you know, allowing the body to do its own individual brilliant evolution? Because we're surrounded, even as star seeds, we're surrounded by other star seeds who are having different journeys, right? And even though we're all connected as one, the perception in moving through each day may be that there are others who are doing certain things. You know, we see stories or we talk to people, and just a place of inquiry to look at, are we allowing the own individual evolution to play its role in the way it needs to for the collective and for our own journey? Or do we feel any kind of pull to do something more than is in the present moment?
Yeah.
I think that's the key, because we have so many unconscious perceptions of the body, and much of it is, you know, comes from our religions. That the body is inferior, matter is inferior, you know, spirit. Even in the Hindu tradition, it's like it's illusion. The body is illusion. This world is illusion. In the Judeo-Christian traditions, it's like, you know, man is, you know, here to sweat, to whatever it is, you know, create whatever it is, that using the sweat of his brow. It's like, you know, evil, sin, all these things are associated with the body that's incarnating on this earth. Failure, loss, you know, even the idea of humility. You know, we are little worms in the dust, and so acknowledge the fact that you're this tiny little, you know, piece of nothing. And the truth is that spirit is equally present within the body as anything else, because the body is spirit. You know, and subatomic quantum reality reveals the truth of that. It's like, you know, you go deeper and deeper and deeper into matter, and what's there? It's just waves of energy and light. You go deeper and deeper into that, what's there? It's just simply consciousness. You go deeper and deeper into that, you enter one stream of consciousness that moves through all things, which is who we are. You know, so macrocosm, microcosm are not separate and apart. It's like I am all of it. And I'm expressing all of that here in this body, in this beautiful, amazing, living quantum reality that is an entire universe in itself. So, wow, you know, if I really understood that and really trusted that and really lived from that space, this is what the masters were about. And that's why they are masters. And that's why we are now being called to enter into mastery.
Yeah, it's the highest, our human body is the highest expression of our consciousness at this moment.
Yeah.
regardless, like what we were saying before about the time, there really is no time, regardless of what, like this right now is the highest expression
Right.
available to us at this time. So really, listening to the body, really listening to the body. And, like you were saying, we've been so programmed to, how many times have we heard, oh, well, I'm only human,
Yeah.
and it couldn't be more like it more farther from the opposite. The power. Yeah.
The broadening
Incredible.
of the possibilities,
Yeah.
all of the deprogramming of those beliefs
Yeah.
to realize the broadness that exists. I think that's really our frontier. Our new
And
frontier
then
is
look at
through
all the social
possibilities.
conditioning around the body.
Yeah.
We're constantly comparing our bodies, picking it apart, telling our bodies, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not, smart enough, I don't compare, I need to be this, I need to do this to look better. And you're seeing yourself through the eyes of other people who are glaring at you and making you into less than who you are so they can feel more. And there's all this drama and games and,
Yeah.
it's like a never-ending story of putting ourselves down and especially identifying with the body, so we're putting the body down. And that needs to change. We need to learn what it means to love this body because it's an expression of the universe, because it's an expression of who I am, infinitely conscious and aware and present. All those qualities that we have relegated to the divine, omnipresence, um, omniscient, omnipotent, they belong to us in this body as well. And we've created this big gap. And that's, I think, the conditioning that we're now letting go. And it's huge.
It is huge because it's just an expression. Our bodies are just an expression. It's not who we are whatsoever. It's just, we're just having an experience as this expression.
Yeah.
And
it is
whatever
an
our
expression
body
of who we are.
Yeah.
Because who we are is not as, we have, I know in my own life that I'd created the split that who I am is spirit, is consciousness, is divine, is infinite, and the body is limited. It's temporary and so on. But to really understand that this body is an expression of spirit means that the same omniscience, omnipresence, limited, unlimited, um, creative potential is also present within the body. There's an intelligence within the body because it's not limited in the way that our minds are. In our minds, matter is limited, but for the body, there's no limits. The body only reflects the limits of the mind, which says, I'm only capable of so much, I'm only human, and so on. So I think that's a new expression, which I think our bodies can receive this cosmic light in ways that the minds are not ready for, even, or it ideally would go together. But I think our bodies are going to be surprising us once we decide to go the distance. There's no limits. And even what we call the limitations that we've experienced on this planet with the pollution, with the chemtrails, and all the excuses we use to pretend that we're not fully present, equally in this physical form. So
I think
I love
our
that.
bodies, I think our bodies are here to teach us about the love that we hold unconditionally. So whatever the body is through our eyes is to teach us what we need to love. So whatever elements of the body that call out to us, I feel are here to bring a higher level of self-love into our field. So whatever your body maybe have going on with it, whether it's certain moments through the evolutionary journey right now, which bring up all kinds of energies and things that we're clearing. This is coming up in very different ways for people. Sensations and physical manifestations are coming up in ways the physical form hasn't seen in thousands of years. And so as things are coming up, it may be rashes or areas, we are called into love and compassion for each of these areas every time these things come up. So with each new solar flare or wave of challenge to the energetic movement in the form, we're being called to a deeper state of love and compassion for whatever the form is expressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and love being the fundamental frequency of this entire universe. I mean, everything is, that's the foundation.
And that's the world we want to live into.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fabulous to actually create physical communities with people that are, completely dedicated to that?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah.
We're doing it, right?
We're doing it.
Absolutely. And that's
we're doing it virtually.
Yes.
Right now, but I think it's going to happen more and more with physical locations, with people, all over the world.
Yeah.
Moving out of cities, learning how to grow food, to work with technologies, free energy technologies, eventually internal technologies, because we've learned as humans to become. I was just listening to this story today about this tribe in the Amazon, and when the missionaries went there, they were, these people. They were high up in the Andes somewhere. None of them wore any clothes. They didn't feel cold. They didn't need to, clothe themselves against the elements because there's no
right.
There's no separation.
Yeah.
And then these missionaries came in and said, no, you can't do that. Well, first of all, it's a sin. And second of all, it's cold and you're going to get sick. And that conditioning then entered into the collective consciousness of that particular tribe. And they all died in a short time. Due to cold or due to disease or due to whatever the mind decided is real.
Yeah, that reminds me of this research article I read many years ago, that there's some sort of cricket out there, this little small cricket that can jump like 1,000 times its size, like, really small cricket can jump like 4 feet. But if you put it in a terrarium with a lid on it, and it stays in there just for a few hours and it tries to jump one time, then from then on, it will never jump 4 feet again.
Interesting.
Just one time, and it stops. It doesn't remember that it can do that. And it's just exactly what you're saying.
There's another very similar kind of story. So you have these two fish in this aquarium, and they swim, from one side to the other side. And then you put a piece of glass right down the middle, and one fish on both sides, and they come and bump their nose on the glass, and they become used to that. And then you take away that piece of glass, and those two fish will still come up to the middle and then turn right back. It's like they never actually meet each other. They can only bump noses because that's what they learn to do with that piece of glass. And it's like, okay, so what's this glass? What's the metaphor? Where in our consciousness have we learned to bump against reality and feel like we're not capable of going the whole way?
So now how can we undo and reverse those conditioning patterns? How can we go rogue and go past the center of the fish tank and above the level of the terrarium? And how can we expand beyond whatever limitations they've been previously patterned into us?
And I
Yeah.
think just this conversation,
Yeah.
okay, we don't need to plan it because the mind isn't capable of
Yeah.
making that jump.
Right.
The intelligence is within the body. The body already knows. So it's just allowing, you
Allowing.
talked
Yeah.
about the difference between allowing and trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a huge piece.
Hmm.
And aren't we lucky that we get to have community to do this with, that we get
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
share the journey together of exploring these things that have come up into our
right.
fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of the community is not so much about, well, we have to do this together, we have to build this healing,
Yeah.
sanctuary together or whatever. It's just that we are holding a certain collective um, state of dreaming that then opens up that
The
fish
lid.
tank,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the lid.
More possibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I myself, just this past week, have been feeling very called and guided to move to Tampa, Florida.
Mm.
So I don't know if that's going to happen potentially, but it feels like people are definitely, like you said, moving and shifting around and shuffling around where they're living. So it'll be interesting to see how things, because we've been doing the virtual for so long, how it happens when we actually start, being in physical community together. I think it's going to
Yeah,
be another
yeah,
bubble that will expand the possibilities,
right.
because the shared fields, it's like you pick up the shared collective, it gets
Mm,
immersed into the cells and guides that potential.
exactly. And I think this is very important for people to contemplate, those in this community
Yeah.
who are listening or participating in some way. It's like, how do you decide where
Mm-hmm.
you want to be, who you want to be with?
Yeah.
And it's a multi-pronged approach. It's like, who decides? Is it the
Yeah.
personal self, or is it being guided by something bigger?
Yes.
What's the how do you discover what feels resonant? How do you learn to trust? And then if it feels right, are you ready to jump into it, leaving everything else behind?
Yeah.
It's about
Um,
attachment.
Yeah.
What
without
are the
attachment,
attachments and how can
without
we
fear.
Letting
work
go of the
with them?
fear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just feeling how it feels in the body. Like when
Yep.
you get that calling to do something, how does it feel in the body versus staying in your comfort zone of where you are and being safe. And one of the things I like to do, which is fun, is if you think of the version of you who does, this one choice over here of, say, moving over here, and then you think of the version of you of not doing that, or say moving to this other location, which if you don't do the one, which one would you be the most jealous of if you don't do, like, which one would you regret the most? Like, and it's easy to reverse it that way, rather than saying, well, which one excites you more? Well, which one would you feel like, oh, I wish I had the courage to have done that, because that would have been amazing. And looking at it, flipping it around sometimes is easier
Like
to trick your mind into allowing you to feel what's right for you.
Yeah. Or where would I be if I hadn't made that choice?
Yeah.
Well, and what about just the felt sense in the body? Like, what does the body feel when you hold the different possibilities? What does the body feel more energy around?
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it can sometimes be an inquiry into listening. What does it mean to listen to resonance? What does resonance feel like? What does it do in the body when something is resonant with you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that can be challenging for some, because there's a lot of numbness in the body
and a lot of noise and distraction around. So how can we truly go in and listen to what the body's saying about these different possibilities, and really just allow, like we were talking about, and not try to make a decision come? maybe the sitting in the unknown of a decision is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it is that we've become so used to being subhuman
Mm-hmm.
that we don't recognize that there's something bigger, something more that's available to us. We have it's like, well, the golden cage. We've become used to this golden cage.
Mm-hmm.
And because our idea of security and safety is the cage. And so that feels safe because of what we've told ourselves we need. And we don't even realize that we've lost our wings.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that reminds me of rent control in California. They call them, what do they call them? There's a phrase, I can't recall what it is right now, but basically it's essentially what you're saying, because there's such heavy rent control in California that you stay in an apartment long enough, you end up paying really low rent. And then people will stay in their apartment for like 10 years because they don't want to move, because if they move, they have to pay really high rent. So they're locked into this golden apartment of low rent, but it's like the golden shackles of but it's kind of a big phrase I hear often around California, that they don't move because of that. So they end up staying there because of the rent control. So same kind of thing.
So can we truly honor what's moving through in the body and really listen to the call to do whatever it is, whether it's just to sit in the unknown or whether to go?
Yeah.
Can we release attachments? Can we trust and leap?
Yeah.
Trust that you're going to be supported. Go ahead,
It's
Kiara.
a paradox, because on the one hand, we're talking about allowing and trust wherever you are is perfect. And on the other hand, you're talking about going, doing, becoming, following this impulse, this dream, this, beam of light that carries you on. So we're talking about two different ways of being and balancing them. So to recognize that learning to be still or learning to surrender does not mean becoming passive, because we tend to equate those two things. That there's a divine force that's moving, even though it appears to be still sometimes. It's like the metaphor that I've talked about with a couple of people is lightning standing still. And it's like, whoa, there's so much power there. But there's also, it comes through the stillness. And the stillness opens up the doors to multidimensional knowledge. And then that entire ocean can come through this vehicle and create in ways that the personal self is entirely unaware.
Yeah, it's a balance between the energy of movement and stillness.
Yeah.
And is there movement in the stillness? Can the stillness allow movement of the consciousness and the energies in ways that may even be bigger actions in a way than some kind of physical transportation of something?
Because they're all inclusive. It's all one. It's all happening in the stillness.
Well, and
that's
there's this both, right? There's what's called for in the moment. Can we be able to do all those things that you were saying, Kiara? The action in the moment, it feels resonant, and the stillness in the moment, that it feels resonant.
And knowing that none of it's permanent. So, there's no letting go of the fear of the movement, knowing that nothing is permanent. If you make a wrong decision, you change it. You can go back. There's no, letting go of that permanency can make it more, allow you to go through it with more grace and ease.
And you can feel, like you were saying, Shaunna, you can feel the difference when something feels right. You feel it in the body. It's a felt sense. And then sometimes you just decide in your um, um, virtual body, making a choice. And how does it feel? Like you're saying, Avalina, how does that feel? And then choosing something else in your virtual body, seeing how that feels. What I'm recognizing is that it's a huge responsibility to be awake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why so many of us decide not to wake up.
Yeah.
Because it requires us to trust ourselves, trust that, sometimes you can be going in a stream where nobody else is able to follow, or everyone thinks you're weird and
Mm-hmm.
strange and like a black sheep.
Yeah.
And are we willing to allow that? Um, do we trust ourselves and the inner um, resonance strongly enough that it doesn't matter? And
Mm-hmm.
only then can we then allow this freedom to come through and the ocean to move who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes time. It's not overnight. It's a process of,
Yeah. Yeah. You
just
can't force it. You have to let that divine, the oversoul come in and just start to become be in the driver's seat, really.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really what humility is about, not what people think it is.
No.
Yeah.
You make yourself small. This is about making yourself big and realizing that everyone is the same, because the universe is huge and magnificent and connected, and it's who we are,
Mm-hmm.
each and every one of us.
Yeah. Equality in our
Yeah.
expansive divinity. And just realizing that it's just a matter of different states of perception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're here to experience it all.
Yeah. And love one another as
Yeah.
one as we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's
What
so
a
lovely.
Well, it
gift.
comes
What a
right
gift.
down to
Yeah.
basic golden rules, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love God, love yourself, love your neighbor, and
Yeah.
it's all the same.
Right.
Well,
So
it's so
perfect.
lovely to be here in that love frequency with you all.
Yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah.
Thank you for being
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. And thank our vessels for
Yes.
honoring them and allowing us to have this experience in a physical form. I mean, how unique, how
What a
profound.
miracle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So much love, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
Much love.
Yeah. So much fun
So,
to honor all of you in your physical bodies and get to experience this together. Experience this energy of this call. It was so palpable.
yes. So until next.
Yes. Yes.
Until next time.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Mm.
Mm.